So let's start with the first question from Psalm Wesley Nino. He asked us, which rookie member of the secondary is bigger to their team, L'Jarius Sneed or Antoine Winfield Jr.? I think this is a very interesting question to ponder and to think about because both players have been very good in their rookie season. L'Jarius Sneed, Jordan, I believe I saw you retweeted PFF's tweet about how he's been the highest graded not safety. He's not safety. He was a safety in college, but he's a cornerback now in 2020, highest rookie graded cornerback. And I think that's super impressive. So what do you guys think about Sneed or Winfield? Who plays the bigger role for their secondary?
I mean, Jordan Whitehead, Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy Bunting, Jamel Dean versus Charvarius Ward, Bashad Breeland, Tyrann Mathieu, Juan Thornhill, Daniel Sorensen. Like, I think part of that depends on what point in the season you're talking about. Like, if you're talking about earlier in the year when L'Jarius Sneed was filling in for Bashad Breeland, or when Juan Thornhill wasn't playing extremely well, now he is. Like, L'Jarius Sneed kind of opens up the rest of that defense and allows Tyrann Mathieu to do his thing without having to come over and play in the slot. He's obviously important, but also Winfield's a pretty damn good player. And like, I don't know, I obviously haven't watched as much of him as I have of L'Jarius Sneed. I don't know how great he is. I don't know his PFF grades and stuff like that, but I think that just from watching Sneed more, I think that he does more for the team. But they're both fantastic players, so I'm definitely willing to be wrong about that.
It's kind of hard for me to say when I don't watch Bucks games religiously. So I don't know exactly Winfield's role in the Bucks defense. I know he's kind of actually the Tyrann Mathieu role for them, and that he's kind of all over the place. Yeah. And it's funny because they're 2 spots away. Tyrann Mathieu and Antoine Winfield Jr. are 2 spots away from each other in PFF grade on the year. So I know he's like a box safety type. So in comparing it to L'Jarius Sneed, it's kind of apples to oranges. And it's a bit hard to say, especially with Sneed playing in the slot recently. I would lean Winfield, knowing that how much that kind of do-it-all safety can actually impact the defense. We've seen it with Tyrann Mathieu. And if he truly has that same impact on the Bucks defense that Mathieu kind of has on the Chiefs one, then he probably imparts a lot of value on the stat sheet and not on the stat sheet. So it's hard to say. I would probably lean a bit towards Winfield, but I mean, they're both excellent for their secondaries this year, and it's really hard to complain if you're either team about what they've done this year.
Yeah, I totally agree. But one thing that I was thinking about when you guys were talking, Winfield didn't play in the championship round against the Packers, and that defense really did just fine. They held Aaron Rodgers in check, and even especially when Tom Brady gave the Packers extra possessions, 3 extra possessions to be exact, they did fine. They held them. The Packers didn't make a comeback. The Packers didn't win. The defense still plays. Now, if you think about the Chiefs in that situation, if Patrick Mahomes gives, the Bills 3 extra possessions if we are going to compare him to Tyrann Mathieu, if he is in that Tyrann Mathieu slot type position, I don't think the Chiefs defense does that good. L'Jarius Sneed, if we're comparing him there, I still think that the Chiefs defense can kind of hang, right? We've seen the Chiefs defense hang without L'Jarius Sneed. We've seen the Chiefs defense play well because they do have that corner depth. And I think apples to oranges is probably a good comparison. But I think it's interesting that the defense from the Bucks was pretty much okay. Obviously, they're going to be better with Winfield Jr. I'm not saying that like the defense is better for the Bucks without Winfield Jr. That's crazy for me to say, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they were okay. They were fine without him.
And wasn't Whitehead out for that game as well with like a shoulder thing? So they were missing both of their safeties.
Last half. I mean, it was mainly because the Bucks.
You're right.
Yeah, it was for the last like half of the game. It was after he forced a fumble, I believe, on Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
But the reason the Bucks defense did so well was because their defensive line was absolutely destroying the Packers offensive line. So even it's hard to really take advantage of backup safeties when to get the ball out of your hand in like 2.5 seconds. So
and that's a good offensive line they were going against too.
Yeah, without Bakhtiari, I mean, we don't have Fisher, but
sure.
It's still they were hurting a lot. And it was funny because I've seen some Packers fans be like, yeah, we didn't have Bakhtiari. Why would you expect the offensive line to do well? When going into the game, they're like, well, we've done well without Bakhtiari before. We'll be fine. I'm just like, wait a minute, what?
Pick one.
Right.
So I think it's hard to really say. I think they're both rated pretty. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed has a higher PFF grade, but you're comparing even different positions there. So it's just like they're graded on different scales, really. I know both rookies had good years, so I think that's something to be excited about.